you have any document, please release such documents, or better still, rather than unnecessary throwing of tantrums.
House of Representatives gives backing to presidential decision on forensic probe of Niger Delta Development Commission.
We assure you of our sincere cooperation and selfless service to this committee.
COVID-19 health sector frontliners mobilize traditional institution to boost support fund. Measures to curb interstate transmission of COVID-19 heightened on the Niger Bridge. Plus, more commitment on arresting insurgency as troops mark Eid al-Fitr celebrations. Good evening. Thanks for joining us on the news tonight. I'm Ian Ray John. Reading with me from Lagos Network Center is Jennifer Igwe. Mariam Adura is in Jos, while Mina Okabasi will be joining us later from Enugu. The news in a bit. Many countries in Europe have begun opening their borders as governments work towards an end to border controls. Onengiye Fine-Face brings us details of this and other developments on COVID-19 Global Update.
Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, Monday reported 229 new cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria. Our breakdown indicates that Lagos has the highest figure of 90 cases, followed closely by Katsina, Imo, Kano, FCT, and Plateau states. Oyo, Gombe, Osun, Anambra, and Bayelsa states have the lowest number of cases. There are now 8,068 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in Nigeria, with 2,311 discharged and 233 deaths. According to the latest data by the Johns Hopkins University and Africa Center for Disease Control on COVID-19, in Africa, total confirmed cases on the continent is 115,892. Number of deaths, 3,479, while recoveries stand at 46,553. Global COVID-19 figures as at 6 p.m. local time stands at 5,634,586 confirmed cases, 2,402,240 recoveries, and 349,184 deaths. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization says it is temporarily halting clinical trials for the use of hydroxychloroquine to treat COVID-19 patients over published concerns that the drug may do more harm than good. In other reports, a coronavirus cluster has been detected on a freight ship berthed in the Australian west coast port of Fremantle. 6 of 48 crew members from the Al Kuwait tested positive for the virus 4 days after the livestock carrier arrived from the United Arab Emirates. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia plans to revise curfew times this week and lift it entirely across the kingdom, with the exception of the holy city of Mecca starting June 21. And in Europe, many countries have already begun opening their borders, including Germany and Luxembourg, as governments are working towards an end to border controls as the outbreak eases across many parts of the continent. Europe effectively shut its internal border area known as Schengen at the start of the outbreak, but a number of countries are calling for the return of free movement as soon as possible. Onengiye Fine-Face, NTA News.
Many thanks, Onengiye. And the Anambra and Delta States governments are working out modalities to reduce human and vehicular traffic on the Niger Bridge, violating interstate movement restriction put in place by the federal government to contain the spread of coronavirus. This followed a meeting of delegations by the two states at the bridgehead, Asaba. Uchena Mwokoyo reports.
With hundreds of pedestrians trooping in and out of the both states through the Niger Bridge, there is the fear of further escalation of coronavirus cases in both states. The Secretary to the Government of Anambra State, Professor Solo Chukwulubelu, and that of Delta State Government, Chiedu Ebie, both agreed that proper synergy should be worked out to get the two states respond appropriately to human and vehicular traffic on the bridge.
Two things we need to address. We need to address the pedestrian traffic and then also the vehicular traffic. The interstate lockdown is still in place, but the peculiarities of this area means that we have to look at it slightly differently. You can see the number of pedestrians going across the bridge, and so we really need to figure out how are we going to deal with it.
I still believe it to be very helpful if the borders, if data borders with a dog are manned very effectively. If you do that, the trucks that come into Delta will be just trucks that you have cleared, and now that the two sides are working together, you signal people they move through the bridge very quickly.
There have been serious concern on how best to enforce interstate movement restriction on the bridge to contain the spread of coronavirus disease. From Asaba end of the Niger Bridge, Uchenna Nwekoyo, NTA News.
The fight against COVID-19 pandemic, no doubt, will be a thing of the past in the country if the citizenry adhere to the safety measures put in place by government to curtail the spread of the virus. Simon Asha was in Bojika, a village in Adamawa State, to find out if rural dwellers are aware of the virus and how they are complying with government safety measures to stay safe.
It's not a respecter of person, as it unleashes its venom on the people. And neither old nor young, rich or poor, we are all culpable to the virus, unless all the safety measures put in place by the government is strictly adhered to by the society, especially rural dwellers. Then the fight against COVID-19 in the country can be a thing of the past. But the question is, are the rural dwellers aware of the virus?
To find out, NTA News was at Boyika village of Tongo local government area of Adamawa State, a community of no more than 200 people, and met a 35-year-old man and surprisingly could not let NTA crew into his house unless they washed their hands at the entrance to his compound.
We have been adequately informed about all the safety measures. COVID-19 is real.
Well, in Ganye International Cattle Market, in Ganye local government area of the state, the market is devoid of the hustling and bustling that usually characterized the cattle market due to the closure of the borders by the state government to curtail any importation of the virus from the neighboring Cameroon Republic.
People are aware that when they come to this market, they get money, so it's difficult to stop them. But we have been, to some extent, we have been very successful.
In Yola, Simon Asha, NTA News.
As search for the antidote for the novel coronavirus continues globally, relevant agencies are also being engaged in the meantime to provide material support and insurance policy for frontliners in the fight against the dreaded disease. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports that the frontline health workers are also reaching out to traditional institutions in a bid to ensure quicker response to emergencies.
Frontline Health Workers Support Fund is an initiative of professional health bodies for improving the safety of frontliners and ensures the welfare of members. The 5 billion naira proposal, to be supervised by 9 separate committees, is expected to close the gap of deficit in working tools as well as social frameworks to reduce risk for frontline workers. Honor of Abaji and Chairman FCT Council of Chiefs is spearheaded the commitment of traditional rulers in sustaining the platforms for the actualization of the proposed fund.
We assure you of our sincere cooperation and selfless service to this committee.
We have a budget of about 5 billion, Your Highness. We want to do insurance coverage for all health workers.
We know that material resources may matter, but human resources, the knowledge, and then the goodwill of the people also matters.
The health professionals also appeal to the people of Abaji to observe physical distancing and other safety protocols outlined by NCDC. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
And looking away from COVID-19 briefly now, in the spirit of Eid al-Fitr, marking the end of Ramadan in the year 2020, Salihu Abdullahi visited a Muslim home to celebrate with them. His report showcases this year's celebration as unique amidst a pandemic, coronavirus, which has dramatically altered lifestyle globally.
It's a day etched in Nigeria's history for obvious reasons. One, that forced the hand of the Nigerian government to impose a total lockdown. to its easing, and now to the ban on interstate movement across the country, all as a result of COVID-19. Nigerians are faced with this reality that is seemingly unpredictable, even as Muslim Ummah mark Eid al-Fitr. In search of a Muslim home, I visited Dawaki, one of the satellite communities in the Federal Capital Territory. As at the time of my visit, the street was still asleep. After the routine hygiene protocol, I was welcomed to this humble family of 5. The ambience of a visitor to the home obviously woke up Zahir and Zinat as they proceeded to join their uncle in performing their morning obligatory duty. From there, it is breakfast. For the family of Akim Olakpadi, living a private life has become dramatic.
Food is now indoor from kitchen, so it has really been a hectic, and I think I need to give it to their teachers.
Children, playground, adults play, just kind of fun game. We really miss that game. Usually be routine.
To this family and others, there is a lot to talk about. The before, during, and even after the coronavirus.
You fasted, and one agenda, common agenda for everybody is to pray for the world, to pray for the country, for God to have intervention and heal the world, because everybody is facing one particular pandemic.
It has not been easy, but we have to cope because of the present situation at hand.
I pray Allah make this pandemic come to an end as sooner as it could.
And so I joined to make a wish that God Almighty should bring to an end the coronavirus pandemic, so that the family of Akim Olakpadi and indeed Nigerians will resume their normal lives. In Abuja, Salihu Abdullahi, NTA News.
And still on Salah celebration, the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar, has commended officers and men of the Nigerian Air Force for their unwavering commitment to nip in the bud the unwholesome activities of insurgents that have bedeviled the northeast region of the country in the past. He stated this at a Salah lunch organized to honor officers of 153 Base Service Group, Yola, in the spirit of Eid al-Fitr, from where Simon Ashar reports.
Churn, unlike in the past, was commemorated in observance with COVID-19 protocol, so as to prevent any unforeseen contingencies in cognizance with the global fight against coronavirus pandemic.
Before anyone could gain access into the operation area of the Nigerian Air Force Base, Yola, one must strictly adhere to the safety measures put in place by government in the fight against the invisible enemy, coronavirus.
We are committed to ensuring our country is safe and our people can go about their normal lives.
Governor Ahmadu Umar Fintri of Adamawa State, also represented by his Chief of Staff, Professor Maxwell Gidado, says the fight against COVID-19 would not have been successful without the help of the Nigerian Air Force in conveying blood samples of suspected cases to Abuja for tests during the lockdown in the state.
The Adamawa State government is also appreciative of the role the Nigerian Air Force, particularly Air Force Base Yola, have been playing in assisting the state in the fight against this dreaded COVID-19.
Aside from sumptuous meals, guests were also treated with cultural dances to spice up the Eid al-Fitr celebration. In Yola, Simon Asher, NTA News.
We're not done with the military yet, as the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, has said that he is confident that logistic support being rendered by Yobe State government will add value to the Air Force operation in the northeast. During a meeting with the Chief of Air Staff, Governor Mala Abuni announced that test landing will be conducted at the Damaturu International Cargo Airport on Friday, 29th May 2020. Mustafa Yusuf Musa reports.
The Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, is visiting Yobe State to inspect the proposed Air Force base located at the Damaturu International Cargo Airport. Receiving the Chief of Air Staff, Governor Mola Boni disclosed that he will keep to all the promises made to the Nigerian Air Force of providing staff quarters, office accommodation, and other logistics for them to fully settle down in the state. He also announced that the Damaturu International Cargo Airport will be test landed on May 29, 2020.
What we are seeing on ground now is reassuring that sooner than expected, this criminality will come to an end.
The Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, said he is very confident with what they have on ground, as having an operational platform in Yobe State will facilitate and make it easy for the Air Force to respond to any threat within the state rather than going to Maiduguri and coming back.
We are very confident that with the facilities that we have now, with your support, I believe that we will be able to respond faster. We'll be able to support our comrades, the ground forces, and make sure that we are there on time. And this will translate into greater security for not only the people of Yobe State, indeed the Northeast.
Construction work commenced in 2017 at the Damaturu International Cargo Airport, which is located 25 kilometers away from the state capital. In Damaturu, Mustafa Yusuf Musa, ANTA News.
Ahead in the news, NDDC probe and a message to Nigerian children. Do stay.
T and I, we gel perfectly. We support the same club. Our taste in music, totally in sync. But there's one area where we differ. Casey loves his peak filled milk because it is low in cholesterol. I, on the other hand, I love my peak full cream milk because it is rich and creamy. So, choose your peak today.
Peak. Reach for your peak. We are going through stress presently in FCT as a result of the fight against coronavirus, and everyone is doing his or her best in this fight.
We are particularly indebted to our FCT healthcare providers, essential workers, first responders, who indeed are at the top of the ladder.
Thank you.
We love you. You're heroes.
You walk around the clock.
We appreciate you a lot.
You are awesome.
Keep it up, guys.
You are strong.
Mongoli, we can never ignore you.
You light up our world.
You are magnanimous.
You are courageous. You are amazing. You are awesome.
God bless you all.
This is to inform all distinguished senators and honorable members the resumption of plenary session, earlier scheduled for Tuesday, 2nd June 2020, has been rescheduled to Thursday, 20th May 2020, to enable members consider the Appropriation Amendment Bill 2020. All distinguished senators and honorable members are expected to resume in plenary by 10 a.m. on Thursday, 20th May 2020, please. Announcer Emi Sani Omolori, Clerk to the National Assembly.
I'm on top of Africa. Anybody for a lolly to make you jolly? This is history unfolding.
Century is Africa's.
Make your home the place to be with GoTV's super cool kids channels.
That sounds fun.
From funky friends that'll keep even the little ones busy.
All right, everybody, let's do this!
To learn as you watch educational shows for curious young minds.
You can do some amazing things.
There's plenty for everyone. Tune in to our kids shows and get everything you need to keep the kids entertained and learning the fun way. Go TV, live it, love it.
These are interesting times. The world in turmoil. Nations taken unawares. Countries are on lockdown and the global economy facing a recession as the government of Nigeria confronts the triple challenge of health, economic, and financial crisis arising from COVID-19. However, wherever we Nigerians find ourselves, at home or abroad, we adapt, survive, and thrive. The world can attest to the resilience, creativity, passion, and dynamism of the Nigerian spirit. We overcame Ebola, and we will overcome COVID-19. The Central Bank of Nigeria demonstrates this resilience and unwavering passion in the Nigerian economy to weather the storm, providing various channels and programs to support the economy for our nation to emerge stronger. In support of the policy direction of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration to revitalize the economy and preserve the livelihoods of Nigerian workers and businesses, the CBN is galvanizing critical stakeholders to sustain the administration's fight against COVID-19 by providing credit support for healthcare development, energizing small and medium businesses, stimulating local manufacturing and services across commercially strategic sectors to create more jobs, wealth opportunities, and ensure financial system stability. The bank is also prioritizing the provision of forex to boost importation of machinery and critical raw materials needed to drive a self-sufficient economy. We invite all economically active Nigerians to get on board and let's put the green back in agriculture. Get our industries working, increase our local capacity to drive exports and grow Nigeria together. Indeed, this shall be our finest hour as we shall surprise and delight the world by steering our ship back to the straits of glory. Nigerians, dynamic, resilient, passionate. This message is from the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Thank you for staying. The presidency has debunked media reports alleging that President Muhammadu Buhari has cancelled a number of memos and appointments signed off by his former Chief of Staff, Abba Kyari. In a statement, presidential spokesman Garba Shehu says there is no iota of truth in the reports and trending in the media space with unnamed sources. He asked Nigerians to ignore the insinuations behind them because since President Buhari was duly re-elected by Nigerians, he has not and will never cede to anyone else the power and trust given to him by the Nigerian people. The House of Representatives says the National Assembly fully supports the presidential decision to carry out a forensic audit of the operations of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, from 2001 to 2019. Chairman, House Committee on NDDC, Representative Olubimi Tunjiojo, while briefing newsmen, says the National Assembly, in line with constitutional provisions, will also go ahead with investigations of alleged financial fiddling by the Interim Management Committee of the NDDC. The committee chairman says the National Assembly will not succumb to alleged blackmail and intimidation orchestrated by the IMC.
All these accusations are coming because the National Assembly decided to institute a probe after calls and different petitions. And blackmail threats had been used as a weapon to stop the National Assembly. That has not worked. Then the latest one is this issue of sheer blackmail. We have told them, if you have any document, please release such documents, or better still, rather than unnecessary throwing of tantrums, approach the relevant security and anti-corruption agencies But the National Assembly will not be deterred from doing its work. We owe our loyalty to the Nigerian people. And as a committee, we owe our loyalty to the people of the Niger Delta.
Representative Tunji Ojo pointed out that all correspondence between the House and NDDC on budgets and other official matters are efficiently documented to ensure transparency and accountability. Meanwhile, the acting managing director of the NDDC has called for the support of the National Assembly in order to conclude ongoing forensic audit ordered by President Muhammadu Buhari. Joy Uzo reports that the NDDC boss, who stated this during a media parley in Port Harcourt, says late passage of the Commission's budget is one of the challenges stalling the execution of its mandate.
Longer news that since President Muhammadu Buhari ordered a forensic audit on the Niger Delta Development Commission, the Interim Management Committee has been facing a flurry of social and established media attacks.
Ordinarily, we wouldn't respond to these type of things because it's very, very clear. But when lies are repeated over and over, they now appear to be the truth. And it's very painful that the media houses are not even taking time to check properly. The NDDC operates accounts only in the central bank, and it is highly regulated.
NDDC Acting Managing Director Professor Keme Brady Kumapondi called for the completion of the forensic audit ordered by the President rather than a fresh probe by the National Assembly.
We got a letter from one of the committees of the National Assembly asking the forensic auditors to be part of our team to appear before their probe. That is totally unacceptable and cannot be done. The lead forensic auditors are not subject to us, and we cannot command them. We are not part of the forensic auditors. We do not supervise them. We only provide the enabling environments.
Professor Ponde says late passage of the Commission's budget and lack of budget in 2016 and 2017 made past managements embark on emergency projects, which have made it indebted to implementing partners. He called for cooperation from the National Assembly to execute the mandate of the Commission. In Port Harcourt, Joy Uzo, NTA News.
In other news, President Muhammadu Buhari felicitated with elder statesman and former Minister of Information, Chief Edwin Kiagbodo Clark, as he turns 93. In a statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, President Buhari glorifies God for the gift of long life and sound mind bestowed on Chief Clark, noting that he continues to command the respect and admiration of Nigerians from different walks of life. President Buhari praised God to continue to strengthen the nonagenarian and urges him to continue to work for the cohesion and progress of the country as he has served to the best of his ability for many decades. And still on celebrations, President Muhammadu Buhari has congratulated Oba Oladuni Oyewumi Ajagungbade III, the Shon of Ogbomosho, as he turns 94 today. In a statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, President Buhari describes the almost 5-decade reign of the monarch as peaceful, prosperous and developmental for natives and settlers alike in Ogbomosho land. The statement adds that various governments at state and national levels have also enjoyed invaluable collaboration from the traditional ruler. The president prays for continued good health, sound mind and longevity for Oba Oyewumi. The wife of the president, Aisha Muhammadu Buhari, heartily congratulates Nigerian children on the occasion of the 2020 International Children's Day. The First Lady describes as special this year's edition, as it is the first to be celebrated indoors due to the coronavirus pandemic. Nonetheless, she enjoins Nigerians to enjoy the day while observing the COVID-19 protocols. Reflecting on the theme for this year, commemoration, which is promoting girl-child education for sustainable development, Mrs. Buhari calls on all concerned to ensure that girl-child education is sustained in quality and skill in spite of present challenges. She encourages them to take their online studies seriously and prays for the reopening of schools soon. This is the network news on the NTA. Let's join Jennifer now in Lagos for more reports. Hello, Jennifer.
Thank you, Yari. Now, with the coronavirus pandemic at play, there are new methods to old ways. From polite salutations to social interactions, everyone is adjusting to set guidelines, and this attitude reflected in the Eid al-Fitr, which was celebrated without fanfare in Lagos. Dr. Oguyemi reports that while medical workers are at the forefront of the war against the virus, the home front is where people are renewing their bonds through prayers and more interactive celebrations.
It is a holiday to celebrate the Eid al-Kabir, yet the mood around town did not reflect this reality of the event due to COVID-19 restrictions. Muslim faithful could not visit comrades as usual, and NTA crew decided to pay a visit to a home in Lagos to see how members were celebrating the Salah. In the heart of Lagos, Magodo to be precise, we reached out to the Ogbaras. Mrs. Kafilat was kind enough to open her doors to us, but not without observing safety rituals. With the washing of hands done, we got to familiarization, where we met all members of this family of 5. Although they had earlier prayed to mark the Salah at their home mosque due to the closure of religious centers, our arrival coincided with the afternoon prayers.
Allahu Akbar.
Madinat Ogbara is the last born of the family, and though she was a little shy, she shared a bit of her experience since the pandemic became a global center.
And I'm very happy I got time to spend with my family, and that people are washing their hands better than normal days, that people will just be touching everywhere, people will be touching the railings, sneezing on their hands and touching other people.
While the times have been trying, members of this family say they have had to improvise new ways to earn a living.
It has been strange. It has been unique. I can say that in the whole of my lifetime, this is the first time we'll be praying Eid at home. We usually go to the Eid ground to pray, even as a child. Since I was born, all my life, every year, we have to go to Eid ground to pray. And then everybody, we shop for new clothing for the children, the family, and everybody.
For the Ogbaras, their prayer is for a quick resolution to contain COVID-19 and a swift return to normalcy. In Lagos, Dotun Oguyemi, NTA News.
Now to micro, small and medium enterprises. Now, post-COVID-19 survival of most small businesses will depend largely on applications of innovation by the owners. Abolade Salami, who interacted with small business owners, reports on plans along these lines.
Economies strive on small and medium-scale enterprises, not only in terms of job creation, but economic diversification and revenue generation accruing from these businesses. Its huge impact on Nigeria's gross domestic product is estimated at about 47.8%, with about 37.1 million MSMEs in the country. These statistics, however, attest to the relevance of the sector.
Again, we are seeing a shift from routine conventional brick and mortar businesses to virtual interface between business and customers. So that would also lead to some businesses becoming completely unviable. So I think in the first place, it takes some time for global consumption and global demand to recover.
Sunday Chuku, a food vendor like other entrepreneurs, says in the last couple of months, he's been confronted with the challenge of drastic drop in revenue due to the coronavirus pandemic. But this challenge, he said, has provided an opportunity for him to come up with innovations on how to grow his business post-COVID-19.
I will make God help us, because as I did like this, if not because interstate motor no they run, if I don't go my village, go they do farm work. But I know that by the grace of God, God will still help us. Learn many things, because even how to manage things, especially by managing things, because like before, if I say food finish, I will go and drink. But ever since this thing started, everybody have another sense.
While the situation requires more efforts on the part of Sunday towards maximizing profits, Kalu Mabel Tisi described the coronavirus pandemic as a clog in the wheel of progress.
The sales ever since we opened, after the relaxing, it's nothing to write home about. You can come out in a week, you cannot boast of 2,000, 3,000. You won't even sell even a pin.
Although small and medium-scale businesses are gradually picking up following the ease in the lockdown, most entrepreneurs say a new approach will be infused into the scheme of things in order to survive the times. In Lagos, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
Time for a break. The news will continue shortly with Nyore in Abuja. Stay tuned.
Is on your my camera. Yes, I need you like you need me, and I know it's awesome, my baby. Ni baba,
Stay Home Data Plan. All existing Glow customers now enjoy up to 20% more data. Dial *777# to choose a plan. Glow Unlimited.
So who's making my husband smile?
I was just thinking about all my investments and how much impact they're making.
Investments?
Do you know I played a part in financing the Oyo-Ogbomosho Expressway? Even Onitsha-Enugu Expressway and that Kano-Maiduguri Expressway. My investments contributed to the completion of those constructions.
Thank you.
Before you thank me, thank FGN Sukuk.
What's that?
A low-risk investment which yields us regular and attractive returns.
Let your money do good and earn you good returns. Participate in the Federal Government of Nigeria Sukuk, offered by the Debt Management Office, which is now on and open to everyone. For more information, visit the financial advisors, Lotus Financial Services Limited and FBN Quest Merchant Bank. FGN Sukuk, investment for you and your country.
To operate like this, if we load unlimited data, you go limited immediately.
She's going through a lot right now.
Well, that lot that she's going through, she will continue going through that lot test.
After all this time, the tailoring school.
Oh, what's it, Jonah?
How much would you like me to pay you monthly?
The place that you are working, how much are they paying you there?
It's like you don't need this job.
I need it well.
Awesome screen, awesome camera, long-lasting battery life. Awesome screen, awesome camera, long-lasting battery life.
Awesome screen, awesome camera, long-lasting battery life. Awesome screen, awesome camera,
Long-lasting battery life.
awesome screen, awesome camera, long-lasting battery life. Awesome screen, awesome camera,
Long-lasting battery life.
What we are really cultivating here is a better future for all Nigerian women, and it's not always easy. Panadol Extra relieves headache, backache, joint pain, toothache, and menstrual pain. The pain is worth it.
Nigerians, let us take responsibility. Stay healthy, stay safe, and curb the spread of the virus. Take responsibility. The coronavirus spreads from one person to another. Let us avoid crowd gathering of any kind for any reason. Take responsibility. Avoid traveling from one state to another during these lockdown restrictions. Obey all the rules that are put in place. Take responsibility. Stop spreading fake news and unverified reports about the coronavirus. There is no known cure for COVID-19. Take responsibility. Observe all the measures that can help stop the spread of the virus. Together, we can do this, but only if we take responsibility. This message is brought to you by
by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Good to have you back. On business news, Nigeria receives $5.85 billion capital importation inflow in the first quarter of 2020. Amina Nujim has details on business news.
That's right, I have details. The latest report from the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, Tuesday revealed that the total value of capital importation into Nigeria stood at $5.85 billion in the first quarter of 2020. The importation represents an increase of 53.97% compared to the last quarter of 2019 and 31.19% decrease compared to the first quarter of 2019. Portfolio investments accounted for 73.61% of total capital importation, followed by other investments which accounted for 22.73% and foreign direct investment which accounted for 3.66% of total capital importation.
Portfolio investment 4%. And again, the foreign direct investment is the sick baby. It has 3.7%, and then the rest, of course, are other investments. Now, but what is very interesting is when you look at the source of these investments, you find that UK still maintained the lead. 50% of this investment came from UK. Surprisingly, if you looked at previous data, America should have come in at about 17%, but they came in at about 7%. So they're much, much lower than you would have expected. And so America's investment was overtaken by South Africa, which has about 14%. And then you have other people, your UAE, before America came forth.
In the meantime, the access to petroleum products in spite of the lockdown to curb the dreaded COVID-19 spread, observers say is a pointer to a strong capacity for the nation's economic revival post-coronavirus pandemic. Abdullahi Suleiman Iyaji was on the streets of Abuja and sought the view of motorists and dealers on this development.
You get it very easy without queue. Okay. So we thank the government and the way things are getting easier.
Oh my God, I love Nigeria so much. In fact, I can't even get out of this country. You know why? Because the fuel here is perfect, it's sharp.
Even with the lockdown, we were lucky enough that the filling stations continued working. So fuel has not really been a problem for us.
For a very long time, since the inception of this government, we've not been having all that excruciating scarcity that make people to buy in panic way.
The public not to do any panic buying. Whether it's diesel, whether it's PMS, they should not do any panic buying. We have the product available on ground.
Similarly, the Russian Energy Minister Alexander Novak is due to meet with oil majors to discuss the implementation of the global production cuts and the possible extension of the current level of cuts beyond June. The meeting on Tuesday is a sign that Moscow is committed to supporting any joint step to stabilize oil markets for a long time, as may be required, after slashing its production to close its quota under the global deal. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and other leading oil producers, including Russia, is a group known as OPEC Plus, agreed last month to cut their combined output by almost 10 million barrels per day in May-June to shore up prices and demand, which has been hit by the coronavirus pandemic. And for more reports, we now join Mariam in Jos. Hello, Mariam.
Hello, Amina. Good evening. It's good to have you join us. Members of the National Assembly caucus from Plateau State have made cash donations in support of the fight against COVID-19 in the state. Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Ahmed Idris Maje, led the members to present the donation to Governor Simon Lalong at Government House Rayfield, Jos. Priscilla Grumnan reports.
Presenting an undisclosed amount of cash to the governor, leader of the delegation and deputy speaker of the House of Representatives, Ahmed Idris Maji, said the fight against the pandemic is a collective one, and so they have come back home as a family to give back to the electorate, especially the vulnerable members of the state.
Collectively, we have come to first appreciate you and to tell you that we're with you, and we continue to pray and act in the manner that you're happy and good with us.
Governor Lalo commended the lawmakers for putting the interest of the state at heart at this difficult time of the global pandemic, saying he is strengthened by their sacrifice and show of solidarity. The governor used the forum to make clarifications on the issue of the return of Almajiri children to their various states as a decision taken collectively by the Northern Governors Forum.
We took the decision at the Northern Governors Forum not against the interests of the Almajiris, but in favor of the Almajiris.
Governor Lalong also received a donation of a well-equipped ambulance made to the state by the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation as part of the intervention initiative on COVID-19. In Jos, Priscilla Grumnan, NTA News.
Residents of Jos have expressed concern over the dangers posed by indiscriminate parking of trucks bringing in goods from states that have high cases of COVID-19. The residents are drawing attention of relevant authorities on the issue with fears of possible spread of the virus in their communities. Ali Sabatu Kai Andrew has more.
Residents of Datinkowa and Coca-Cola Junction are not only worried about the way the trucks are being packed, but also the hazards of community transmission of COVID-19 virus, as well as a major case of gridlock and accidents.
Like even in this our area, most of the major business in this area have relocated. The thing is that we can't sell because this truck are covering the whole shop. We cannot sell, and also thieves are attacking us here because when they cover these things, nobody will see anything.
The truck drivers, however, said they do not have a park to park their trucks.
When you come early at the morning around 7, we used to make them for road. But when you come in evening or night, they are not around.
What then are the measures put in place by the state government in tackling the hazards associated with these issues?
As long as you are coming into Plateau, the laser thermometer will have to be applied on you. They are there at the borders. And we are doing this to make sure that we safeguard the lives of all of us.
To further strengthen enforcement of border closure in order to curb the spread of the virus, Plateau State Government will deploy its Executive Council members at all exit-entry routes in the state. In Jos, Alisabeth Kai Andrew, NTA News.
That's it from Jos. Yeri is back to you. Have a good evening.
Mario, in continuation of its daily monitoring and enforcement of the interstate travel ban, FCT Ministerial Task Team on COVID-19 has intercepted and arrested 29 Lagos-bound commercial motorcyclists traveling in a truck. Abdullahi Ajiya has details.
The FCT Ministerial Task Team in its outing on Tuesday intercepted a truck with registration number LFA 837ZX from Taraba heading to Lagos through the FCT. After due interrogation from the chairman of the task team, driver of the truck, who was conveying some precious stones, and commercial motorcyclist, whom he picked from Lafia to Lagos, and their bikes were arrested for violating the COVID-19 partial lockdown order in the FCT.
How did you manage from Taraba or Lafia to reach where our men arrested you here?
Sincerely, I consider one from God.
Now from God, how God take you?
So, as they don't stop me now, that's why I pass.
Chairman of the FCT Ministerial Task Team, Iharu Atta, expressed concerns over the continued violation of the restriction order, adding that the truck and all its non-human contents will be impounded until the COVID-19 restrictions were lifted.
very, very despicable. We have seen persons being carried in between fertilizers, being carried in between bags of beans, in between bags of pepper, in between bags of onions, in between bags of tomatoes, in very, very dehumaning conditions. And we found that really very worrisome. As we go to enforce this, and as we enforce this, what we feel in our heart is pain.
Thereafter, the men were arraigned before Magistrate Idayat Akoni, who found them guilty with 3,000 naira fine on the truck driver and the occupants of the truck be sent back to their point of departure. The tax team, however, warned other would-be violators to keep off, as the FCT will use the law to punish offenders. Abdullahi Ajia, NTA News.
And Mina in our Enugu studio has the next set of reports. Hello, Mina.
Hello, Larry. Good evening and welcome to Enugu. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyama, under his Kusike Foundation, is distributing another set of palliatives to the people of Enugu State. Correspondent James Obarikocha reports.
With the extension of the lockdown for another 2 weeks and in continuation of the distribution of palliatives to the people of Enugu State, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyama, has provided over 10,000 bags of 10 kg rice, thousands of sanitizers and face masks. The first and second batches of the palliative were targeted at the very poorest of the poor in Enugu State. Members of the Kusike Foundation went to various communities in Enugu State directly fishing out very poor and vulnerable people in the deep rural communities of the state. The random selection was devoid of any party affiliation, as only those truly in need of the palliative were handed over the lifelines. The Kusike Foundation also visited the northern community in Enugu to felicitate with them on the Eid al-Fitr Salah celebration.
I want to say that we really appreciate this gesture that is coming at a better time while we are celebrating the Eid al-Fitr from the Honorable Minister, Geoffrey Onyama.
Chief Oke Obodo, who represented the minister, said Geoffrey Onyama was providing the palliative as a support to both the federal and state governments who have been providing palliatives to the people.
The Honorable Minister, like said during our first presentation, that is encouraging our people in Enugu State to please support the government in its effort to curtail the spread of this virus by keeping to the rules and regulations.
The foundation will later go around the 17 local government areas of the state, directly present palliatives to the poorest of the poor, yet get their own palliatives. In Enugu, James Oparikocha, NTA News.
To actualize her development agenda through diversification of a state economy, the Enugu State government has restated its commitment to supporting the organized private sector, who are key drivers in the development process. The state governor, Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, stated this while handing over a vehicle to the Enugu Chamber of Commerce, Industries, Mines and Agriculture, ESIMA, as major participants in the economic growth of the state. Susan Eze has details.
To create a viable platform for the non-oil sectors to thrive in Enugu State, Governor Ugwuanyi stressed that his administration is open to public-private partnerships to harness the abundant business opportunities in the state. Represented by the Deputy Cecilia Ezilo, the governor maintained that private sector participation is indispensable in economic development and job creation. The Enugu Chamber of Commerce, Industries, Mines and Agriculture, the governor said, has been a worthy partner in the state government's economic development agenda. Hence, the donation of a brand new bus to the body by the government to aid their operations.
We can only achieve industrialization and entrepreneurship through people like you, the ESIMA group. And that's why His Excellency deemed it fit to support this feat by making this donation.
On behalf of ESIMA President, the Vice, Dr. Jasper Ndwagwike, appreciated the gift, noting that it would aid the body in actualizing his dreams for the state.
Short of words. By this singular act, the Governor, His Excellency, has indeed proved that he has the interest of the organized private sector at heart.
Secretary to the state government, Professor Simon Otwanya, was also part of the handover ceremony. In Enugu, Susan Eze, NTA News.
You're still on to Network News on the NTA. More reports after the break. Stay with us.
Thank you, Mina. That break will have to wait. Amicable end to Nigeria football season in the offing. Ayodeji Makinde tells us more on Sports Update.
As the debate on a possible mode of conclusion of the 2019-2020 season of the Nigeria Professional Football League and other leagues goes on, Minister of Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare, assures stakeholders will be carried along in the process in order to achieve cohesion and continuity.
NMC is looking at three options. I personally want to see the completion of the league, of the season, so that the clubs can have enough time to prepare adequately for the next season.
The clubs are committed to complete the league. We are committed to that. Whatever we are doing should be based on sporting merit and sporting fairness.
Meanwhile, Nigeria football ambassador and former Super Eagles striker Daniel Amokachi has distributed food items and other provisions to Kaduna residents to cushion the effects of the COVID-19 lockdown. The distribution, which was done under the aegis of the Amokachi Foundation, saw more than 1,000 families benefiting from the palliatives. A member of the gold-winning Atlanta 1996 Olympics team, Daniel Amokachi was one-time assistant Super Eagles coach. Ayodeji Makinde, NTA News.
Away from sports and on a sad news, President Muhammadu Buhari condoles with the government and people of Ogun State, as well as the family of Alhaji Liadi Orunsholu, the Chief Imam of Egba Land, who passed away on Tuesday, May 26, 2020, aged 98. In a statement, the president salutes the life of piety left by the departed, who was also President General of the League of Imams and Alfaz in Ogun State, praying for the departed to be bountifully rewarded in the hereafter. President Buhari charges all those who mourn Alhaji Orunsholu to be challenged by his devout life and seek to achieve same. In the meantime, Lekon Agbonde reports that the remains of the late cleric have been laid to rest.
Dignitaries, including the former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, Senator Ibikule Amosun, and the state deputy governor Naimot Salako Yedele were among the sympathizers who paid glowing tribute to the late Islamic leader.
It's a very big loss for us.
He just believed that we must live in love and enjoy peace together.
Baba tried as much as possible to unite the people of Egba, the Ogun State, as well as other western regions.
In a short exhortation, Professor Kamaldeen Balogun has told the virtues of the deceased and urged people to emulate his sterling qualities. The late Liadi Onusholu was installed the chief imam of Egba Land in 2003. He died at the age of 98. He is survived by children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, including a retired staff of NTA, Alhaji Abdulhafiz Onusholu and Kemi Onusholu Sikiru of the News Department, NTA, Abeokuta. Lekon Agbonde, NTA News.
President of the Senate, Ahmad Lawan, has commiserated with the Nigerian Union of Journalists and Guild of Editors on the death of one of their colleagues, Wahid Bakari. In a statement, Senator Lawan also condoled with the Bakari family, the management and staff of the New Telegraph newspapers, where Wahid Bakari worked as the Saturday editor. He prayed that Almighty Allah grant and the departed soul eternal bliss and comfort his loved ones and colleagues as they grapple with the painful loss. And that's Network News tonight. Many thanks for being a part of it. Good night.